Welcome to the Office of Michigan Attorney General. I want to thank you all for joining us today for this important announcement. Joining me today are Democratic leaders of the House and the Senate, Senator Jim Ananak, Representative Christine Gregg, Representative Sarah Anthony, and we also have here, I think, Representative Brixey. Are you here? Yep, there she is. Representative Jim Hadsma, way in the back over there. Representative Yusuf Rabi, are you here? Also in the back. And Representative Donna Lisinski, also back there. Great. And we also have 4 people who have been directly impacted by the issue of payroll fraud. We have Joe Meyers, who injured himself twice on the job working as a 1099 independent contractor and was forced to choose between getting paid and permanent nerve damage in his hand. We have Nolan Ostrowski, who had the courage to call his employer out. Steve Weddle, a retired social services office supervisor who had to tell hardworking Michiganders or their survivors that they did not qualify for Social Security benefits because they didn't file their 1099 taxes correctly. We have Jim Coey, a business owner who plays by the rules. And we're here to announce a plan to address an issue that will restore justice and return stolen money from workers and the good taxpayers of Michigan. Payroll and tax fraud has been allowed to go on under the radar for far too long. And it's a crime that robs all of us. And we're here today to say enough is enough. Nobody wants to be taken advantage of, and nobody wants to be robbed. Yet every year, because of lax enforcement, Michigan taxpayers and workers are robbed in plain sight when shady companies commit payroll fraud, misclassify their workers, and dodge paying hundreds of millions of dollars in money that they owe to Michigan. This scam may also go by different names: payroll fraud, tax fraud, worker misclassification, and wage theft. And one thing everybody can agree upon is that it's 100% dishonest, and the results are 100% devastating. These are companies that fraudulently report employees as self-employed and independent contractors, or they're paying workers under the table. They refuse to pay overtime, benefits, health insurance, and workers' compensation. And because they cheat on time cards and keep costs off the books, they're not paying their taxes. Now, the majority of Michigan companies play by the rules, but those who don't are cheating the system, raking in unfair profits, and hurting Michigan in the process. These fly-by-night operators are lying, cheating, and stealing from all of us. And while wage theft rates vary by industry, the highest offenders are in construction, landscaping, and janitorial services, as well as in childcare, beauty and personal services, retail, food service, car wash, and home health care. Now, one study found that between 2013 and 2015, shady businesses stole more than $429 million from 2.8 million hardworking Michiganders. This is money that we could be using to invest in local communities and rebuild Michigan so our families can enjoy a stronger future. Now, the problem of payroll fraud can be best tackled by giving real teeth to law enforcement. So to achieve this goal, I am establishing the Payroll Fraud Enforcement Unit within the Department of Attorney General, dedicating resources to receive credible complaints of payroll fraud and worker misclassification. This unit will investigate those claims with the assistance of other departments and agencies and take appropriate actions available under existing laws to deliver meaningful remedies to the workers of the state of Michigan. By bringing together a team of professionals from the relevant agencies, we can better share information and coordinate our efforts to stop payroll and tax fraud. This unit will have the tools and the authority to go after those companies that commit payroll fraud and bring them to justice. Without real teeth, these bad actors and fly-by-night operators will continue to break the law and to do as they please. And without real enforcement mechanisms, these companies will continue to steal from their workers and to shortchange Michigan taxpayers. Payroll fraud can be a sophisticated operation involving many actors and many layers of deception. Companies that cheat the system use crooked labor brokers and subcontractors, shell companies, and check cashing businesses to avoid paying workers full wages, overtime, and benefits. And using this scam, they dodge federal, state, and local taxes. By violating basic labor and employment tax laws, these companies save a lot of money and rake in huge profits. Cheating the system gives them a competitive advantage over legitimate businesses that do pay their employees full wages and benefits, as well as all of their payroll taxes. Because they're paying their workers half of what these workers should be paid, these shady companies can easily bid their costs 20 or 30% cheaper than legitimate businesses that play by the rules. Because they're not paying taxes, benefits, or insurance, these companies can roll up their profits, even though that's money that should go to benefit all Michigan taxpayers. And that's just not fair to anyone. Nationwide, cases of egregious workplace payroll and tax violations have tripled in recent years. Workers don't report issues out of fear of retaliation or because they think nothing will be done to correct the problem. And let's face it, many employers do not correct their behavior. They keep cheating their workers and taxpayers even after they've been warned by the IRS that they've misclassified employees as independent contractors. And they don't even change their behavior when they're caught paying people under the table to avoid paying taxes. So we cannot wait for others to fix this problem for us. So here are our goals. We increase awareness of wage theft, worker misclassification, related issues, and ways to fight back. Increase reporting of wage theft, increase the number of investigations into claims of wage theft, facilitate cooperative resolutions between employers and employees to allow for positive, continued employment relations, and obtain judgments against repeat offenders and enforce workers' rights. One of the biggest issues we face is knowing when wage theft and payroll fraud occur. Our Payroll Fraud Enforcement Unit will provide a dedicated team to receive and to investigate credible claims of wage theft. We'll also increase protections for whistleblowers, working with our friends in the legislature, hopefully on both sides of the aisle, to reform protections that encourage workers to come forward with information. Because taking out the cheaters makes the business climate better for those who do play by the rules. And we'll also work to increase penalties for violations so we can stop bad actors who fail to comply with workers' rights. And in the next few days and weeks, more proposals will be introduced to prevent these shady actors from cheating workers and cheating Michigan taxpayers. So I urge our friends in the legislature to support these efforts so that we can fight crime, stop lawbreakers, and stand up for Michigan taxpayers. Companies that cheat and steal are committing crimes, plain and simple. So we must hold them accountable, and the families of Michigan deserve this action, and they deserve it now. So right now I'd like to ask Senator Jim Ananich to come up and speak. Senator?
Thank you, Attorney General Nessel. I'm proud to be here today with the Attorney General, with House Democratic Leader Chris Gregg, Representative Anthony, a number of our colleagues, both in the House, and my colleague Senator Hertel in the back, along with our partners in labor and the business communities. Payroll and tax fraud is a problem that we must address. We must stop criminal behavior to protect Michigan workers and taxpayers. We must make sure that our efforts have real teeth. We'll soon be introducing legislation in the House and Senate that can stop payroll fraud and protect taxpayers' money. We want to be clear. When shady businesses cheat their workers, they're committing tax fraud as well. That's why we're here today, to announce proposals that will crack down on the crime and make workers and taxpayers whole. Payroll fraud is not a harmless crime. The first casualties of this criminal act are workers themselves. Companies that commit payroll fraud undercut legitimate businesses that pay their workers what they're owed. I'll make sure I state that again, what they're already owed. If we allow payroll and tax fraud to go on, companies that follow the rules and pay their workers will continue to be punished. Michigan welcomes honest companies that play by the rules, pay above-board wages and benefits, and contribute their fair share like everyone else. But we can no longer tolerate companies that refuse to follow the simple rules of doing business by cheating Michigan taxpayers. Our legislation will attack this problem from several angles. One area we want to focus on is strengthening whistleblower protections. Payroll fraud happens in the dark. The best way to catch those who cheat and steal is to hear directly from employees who are being taken advantage of. The men and women who are exploited by their employers are the best source of information. These individuals often don't know their rights under the law, and many feel retaliation from the industry or from the individuals. We must protect these workers. That's why whistleblower protections are critical to workers and law enforcement. We want people to know that when they see something, they should speak up and they will receive the full protection of the law. We need Michigan workers to be paid every dollar they earn to build a strong Michigan. That's why we can't afford to overlook payroll and tax fraud any longer. Next up will be my colleague and good friend, House Democratic Leader Chris Gregg.
Thank you, Leader Antonek, and thank you, Attorney General Nessel, for spearheading this important work. My name is Christine Gregg, and I serve as the House Democratic Leader, but I also represent the people, the businesses, and the organizations of Farmington and Farmington Hills. And prior to serving in the legislature, I was a technology consultant who specialized in payroll and HR systems, making sure that businesses are compliant and that employees received the wages and benefits that they earned. So I want to make it clear that payroll fraud is tax fraud. When dishonest companies steal from their workers, they are stealing from local communities. By refusing to play by the rules and paying their fair share, shady businesses steal more than $107 million a year. That's in revenue from taxpayers every year, $107 million. When hardworking families fall victim to payroll fraud, they face potential financial hardships and even poverty. To stop payroll fraud, we must punish bad actors with tough penalties. We must crack down on crooked businesses when they fail to pay taxes or fail to pay employees what they are owed in wages and overtime. In the case of misclassification, the worker should be paid back all the pay and benefits that he or she would otherwise be entitled to as an employee. These workers are exploited through no fault of their own, and they must be made whole. And the businesses that commit this crime against workers must be ones to pay. Dishonest companies that commit payroll fraud have been robbing Michigan for years in broad daylight. We need to stop this problem, punish the lawbreakers, and make things right for the people of Michigan. Democrats in the legislature are committed to standing with Michigan workers, honest businesses, and communities in saying enough is enough. Hard work and fairness are Michigan values, and dishonest companies that cheat and steal do not reflect those shared values. Payroll fraud is nonpartisan, and it hurts everyone. As Michiganders, we believe that people should be paid a fair wage for a hard day's work. And we invite and encourage our colleagues across the aisle to join us in standing up for those Michigan workers and the taxpayers and our shared Michigan values. Together, we can crack down on dishonest companies that steal from workers and Michigan families. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend, Representative Sarah Anthony.
Thank you, Leader Gregg, and thank you, Attorney General, for your leadership in this area. As I was reflecting, so my name is Sarah Anthony. I'm the state representative for the 68th District, which includes the city of Lansing and Lansing Township. And I'm also serving as the House Democratic Caucus Chair. So thank you for being here. As I was reflecting, I wanted to make sure that we do not lose sight of the workers that are being exploited by these practices. We can't lose sight of how payroll fraud directly hurts families and the workers. We must not lose sight of how payroll fraud sends workers into a cycle of hardship that affects them and their families. Remember, these folks who have been cheated out of their hard-working wages are being impacted day in and day out. In addition to holding these companies accountable, we must make sure that they also do right by the workers that they have cheated. One of the proposals that we'll be introducing addresses workers' compensation insurance. Legitimate businesses pay this, and their workers are covered when they are hurt on the job. However, some businesses do not. Instead of workers' compensation insurance, instead of paying it, they take the money and they pocket the cash. When these businesses cheat the system, the ones who are hurt are their employees. When workers get hurt on the job, they are the ones who are stuck with the medical bills and they don't have workers' compensation. These workers, who may be from low income or moderate income backgrounds, may not have health coverage. They won't get paid any lost wages. They're already getting less of what they're actually earned or owed. So now the injured worker has large medical bills, potentially no health insurance, unable to work, and they get paid less for every dollar that they've earned. That's 4 ways that a worker is being cheated when employers cut corners and don't pay workers' compensation insurance. This shortchanges workers, and it's just wrong. So I support, and I know House Democrats support, requiring businesses to do the right thing. The ones that don't pay workers' compensation need to pay back everything that is owed in delinquent insurance. We must make sure that businesses pay for workers' medical costs and lost wages when workers get hurt on the job. These companies are taking the easy way out and getting a free ride off of the backs of legitimate businesses that actually follow the rules. They're exploiting people who want to work, and not paying hardworking Michiganders what they've actually earned. As elected officials, we have a duty to do everything we can to put an end to this exploitive practice. Let's send a clear signal that Michigan stands with our working men and women, and not businesses that cheat the system and their employees. So again, I'd like to reintroduce our Attorney General, who will continue on with the press conference.
Thank you so much, Representative Anthony, Representative Gregg, and Senator Antonek. I'd like now to introduce you to 4 different individuals who are going to tell you what this issue means to them, because they've experienced it from various different viewpoints. Now, first I'd like to introduce Joe Meyers, who knows the severe and negative and devastating impacts of being misclassified as an independent contract employee. Joe?
Good morning. I want to thank our elected leaders who take payroll fraud seriously and working to protect people like myself. My name is Joe. I'm from Jackson. I've been a carpenter almost 15 years. From October 2018 to February 2019, I worked for a construction company called Erie Construction, building residential homes. When I was brought on, I was told that the guys that they have working for them are paid on a 1099 independent contractor basis. So not fully understanding the type of risk associated with being a 1099 contractor, I accepted the job. Throughout my time there, I was paid on a job-to-job basis, so I thought everything was above board. I wasn't paid until the job was done, and for a guy working paycheck to paycheck, it made me take risks I otherwise wouldn't take to finish the job. And when you're trying to make ends meet and don't finish till the job gets done, it don't really leave you many choices. And for me, that led to multiple injuries while working at Erie. I fell off a ladder in bad weather and messed my shoulder up pretty bad. Another was when I cut my hand to the bone. I should have left immediately to get stitches and didn't. I wrapped my hand in gauze and kept working to finish the job before taking the 2-hour drive home to receive medical attention because I couldn't afford to go back that day. Just couldn't afford it. So unfortunately for me, I still have nerve damage in my hands that makes it hard to even hold a cup of coffee or even my youngest child for too long. You know, all this so a shady boss could make a few extra bucks. Unfortunately, I'm just one of the, examples of a far wider problem that men and women in the construction field face. So again, I want to thank you guys for being here and taking this problem seriously, and I really hope we can get somewhere with it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Joe. All right, next up is Nolan Ostrowski, who had the courage to call his employer out. I'd like to hear about that, Nolan.
Morning. I'm Nolan Ostrowski, and I live in Eden Rapids. And I'm here to tell you about an experience I had with a contractor and how he was screwing and stealing from me and my friends. In 2013, I replied to an ad on Craigslist. And after getting a call from the guy, we decided that we were going to... I'm sorry about that. In 2013, I replied to an ad on Craigslist looking for carpenters to help build townhouses in the city of Detroit. The company placed the ad was called Hammer Construction. After applying to the ad, I received a call promising steady work and good wages. After the first week of work, without knowing my hourly rate of pay, I was finally able to corner the owner on Monday of that week and asking him what I was going to get paid. And he stated that his workers were paid well and that I should not worry about it. On the Tuesday of that same week, 2 new guys started. And they also were told the same thing, that they were going to get paid well and there was a promise of good work. On the next day, I called the Hammer Construction Company and told them I would no longer work for them unless they gave me an hourly rate of pay. And then it was discussed, and we were settled on $19 an hour. When Friday came around, the boss was nowhere to be found, and I called him numerous times and never got a reply. I had previously filed a complaint with the state before regarding another contractor I had worked for who didn't want to pay me overtime wages. So I knew who to call. It come to find out that this contractor had 2 businesses that were registered to his residential address where he lived. And quite frankly, I didn't know which one I worked for. So I was advised to start a lawsuit against both of them. And that was what recovered my wages. That took about 10 months. Then after that, shortly after that, I received a 1099 in the mail, and I really felt screwed at that point. The thing is, this shouldn't happen this way. I mean, they were taking advantage of me. I'm a working class man. I've got a house, a wife, 3 kids, and a dog. I come to work. If the companies knew that they had the Attorney General after them, and they made them pay with stiff fines and penalties, it would have made things, they would have made them think twice about it. So I wanted to thank the elected officials for coming here and hearing me today and creating a special unit to go after these guys and the working class people like me and my friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Nolan. Really appreciate you stepping up and speaking out. And now we have Steve Weddle, a retired Social Security worker who had to tell hardworking Michiganders or their survivors that they didn't qualify for Social Security benefits because they didn't file their 1099 taxes correctly. So, thanks, Steve.
Good morning. My name is Steve Weddle. I live in Battle Creek, and I'm a 30-year employee of the Social Security Administration. I retired as the manager of the Battle Creek office. I served active duty for 4 years, stationed in Turkey, was a 23-year Air Force reservist. I've also been a regional federal benefits officer for the U.S. State Department, responsible for administering federal benefits in Germany and Central Europe. I came here today to talk about my experience to deny hard-working men and women or the next of kin Social Security and or survivor benefits. The people I'm talking about work hard, and they earned a decent living while thinking they were doing what was right to qualify for Social Security benefits. But for many people who I interviewed, they were about to be hit square in the face with some bad news. That's because many people who are 1099 independent contractors don't know the rules, can't afford an accountant to help them pay properly, their taxes and so forth. And because they're independent contractors, it's their responsibility to cover not only their own portion of Social Security and Medicare, but also the employers. They are the employer, so to speak. So after working their entire life, hard work, fellows who worked manual labor with busted up hands or backs, thinking they would qualify for Social Security benefits, had to come into my office to find out that the retirement or the disability benefits or the survivor benefits that they expected, that they worked hard for, that they earned, weren't there. I had to tell them when they were sitting in front of me that they didn't have the retirement, disability, or survivor benefits. It hurt. It hurt them a lot. It hurt me, affected me, because it hurt me that we weren't able to do what I thought should be done for the American public, for the American worker. And I sensed that disappointment that they had, and it affected me. I was the one who had to give them pamphlets or instruct them where to go to file with state benefits or other federal benefits that were more the social safety net benefits that come out of the general revenue funds rather than the Social Security, disability, retirement funds, and so forth. All this hurt. The employers know what they're doing. They're running a shady business, and they found a way to take advantage of the worker to make some extra money and to cheat. That's the bottom line. What they're doing is wrong. It's not Michigan values. It's not our values. And we're taught to take care of each other, not to take advantage of each other. So I've got one thing to say to these shady businesses that take advantage of their workers. Shame on you. I thank the elected officials in this room for standing up for what's right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. It's just such an incredibly important perspective. I really appreciate that. And last but not least, I want to introduce you to a business owner who does play by the rules, Jim Cowie.
Good morning. I'm Jim Cowie. I'm the president of Cowie Hayes Construction, based out of Ann Arbor. We do all sorts of carpentry, from drywall to finish work. Primarily, we do construction assisted living facilities, condos, and commercial buildings. While we believe it's important to stand by our workers, we want to make sure that they get paid for what they've earned. They're covered if they get hurt on the job, help them save for retirement. There's a lot of crooked businesses out there that don't. They steal from their workers, they don't pay taxes, and if somebody gets hurt on their job, it's their own tough luck, they're on their own. And enforcement has been so lax for so long, they even brag about it at lunchtime. They're proud about the extra money that they earn and what they take from their workers. They even tell you how they can cheat the system and undermine the legitimate businesses by about 26% in taxes. That's because they're illegally misclassifying their employees as 1099s or as independent contractors. That means no overtime, no workman's comp, no payroll taxes, no unemployment. It means that payroll and tax fraud hurts us all, and it's just not good business. It certainly hurts our workers and our families and our communities. It also hurts our communities and legitimate businesses that are trying to do the right by their workers. And again, thank you to all the legislatures and elected leaders here, and thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And thank you to all of you for joining us here today. Those are powerful stories. And of course, those are just a few of the thousands and thousands of stories like that throughout our state. So again, want to thank all the members of the legislature. I think I missed you, Senator Hertel, so my apologies for that. But thanks to everybody for coming. I also would like at this time to introduce the head of our labor division, Debbie Taylor, who's here today, along with the man who's going to be leading up our efforts, Zach Risk, both from my office. Why don't you guys come on up? And I just want to let you know how proud I am of our labor division. We have an amazing staff of attorneys and investigators and support staff, and I know they're going to do an incredible job with this task force. So thank you guys for all the hard work you've done putting this together. So again, thank you to everyone who's shared these incredibly important stories publicly. There are many who understandably do not feel comfortable speaking up in a public forum, but their stories matter too. This issue impacts Michiganders of all backgrounds, and anyone can come forward by going to michigan.gov/payroll fraud or dialing 833-221-1099. I know, clever, right?